you cannot let AI just deploy to production unsupervised because it has no idea what to do.
This is DevOps Paradox, episode number 323, The Security Nightmare of Vibe Coding. Welcome to DevOps Paradox. This is a podcast about random stuff in which we, Darren and Victor, pretend we know what we're talking about. Most of the time, we mask our ignorance by putting the word DevOps everywhere we can and mix it with random buzzwords like Kubernetes, serverless, CI/CD, team productivity, islands of happiness, and other fancy expressions that make us sound like we know what we're doing. Occasionally, we invite guests who do know something, but we do not do that often since they might make us look incompetent. The truth is out there, and there is no way we are going to find it. P.S. It's Darren reading this text and feeling embarrassed that Victor made me do it. Here are your hosts, Darren Pope and Victor Farsick. Victor, is there anything wrong with vibe coding?
There's something wrong with everything, but I have a strong suspicion that you're aiming at something in particular.
Well, most people probably start out vibe coding. I'm assuming you did. I know I did.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I haven't written a line of code directly in months.
Does that scare you at all?
No, why? I'm reviewing code done by others. And I'm instructing others how to write code. What's wrong with that?
Like somebody told me the other day, the only thing he really understands is fix it. Because it's not working, he goes back into types, fix it. Okay, that's vibe coding 101. If you don't know the phrase fix it, that's what you want to use.
Exactly.
I think really everybody starts at vibe coding. I think that's fine. Sometimes you're just trying to figure out here are the perfect people to do vibe coding, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Product owners or product managers. Go with me here for a second. Mm-hmm. Architects. Because those two people probably use Word and Visio more than anybody else in a company. So why not give them the tooling to be able to just sort of get something going? Maybe, maybe not, right? It's a whole lot better than a Visio document or whatever the Visio thing is today.
Let me just clarify something. If I'm not mistaken, vibe coding, whomever came up with the term, was trying to say, hey, I explain my vibes, what I want, and AI does everything else, basically unsupervised. Most people, when they say vibe coding, are these days meaning, hey, do this, and I'm watching you. I'm confirming and denying you to do things. I'm giving you additional instructions. Are you thinking about the former or the latter when you say vibe coding?
Probably the former in this case.
Oh, that doesn't work.
Okay. It doesn't work, which is going to be the key part we're going to get to. But it's not a bad way for somebody that is not a developer at all to sort of get something going.
Yeah.
But there's a danger in that. But go ahead and complete your thought.
It's very good, actually, for new applications. Right? And those applications are very focused on specific feature, and that's it. Think of them as microservices or microsites. Right? So if you're an HR and you need to sort the candidates to join your company in certain way, that's perfect for vibe coding, right? It can do it in one shot. Or if you want to create a website for, I don't know, your hobby, whatever it is, perfect for vibe coding, right? So if that's what we mean by vibe coding, those are the good use cases. Starting from scratch, relatively small scope, work on it until it's done, right? Hopefully that person doing that will spend time explaining, the style or intention, what's or not. Then it works well. The problem comes when you start working on real applications. And real is the wrong word because all applications are real. But, existing applications, more complex, right? When adding a feature means writing, 1,000 lines of code and that being dropped in a bucket, 0.001% of the total code base, right? Then things become complicated, and those are the cases where I don't believe in vibe coding from that perspective. Like, I explain you what you should do, and I come back to you when you're done. I would call it unsupervised AI. It completely breaks apart. Does silly things. But for HR, and I'm using them as example, or your personal something application, you need something done, it's perfect. It's amazing. Lovable, for example, is a great example of a big success story for that.
So you're actually reinforcing a point that I have. I have a couple things written down. Some of the pros of vibe coding: rapid prototyping and faster initial development. Right? Perfect for that.
Yes, perfect.
That's what we want. And that's the reason why I was saying architects or product owners or product managers that are trying to come up with something, that's good for them, right? It's better than giving me what they think is a requirements document.
I would say your examples were right, except I'm not sure that I would agree about architects.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, because
I'll pull them out.
It's about being an architect, meaning considering all the different variations, doing different types of experiments, figuring out what it's a lot of work. But everything else, I agree.
Okay. Another one's useful for proof of concepts, throwaway code. It's exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah.
But let's say you've vibe coded something now, and you're ready to turn it into production. It's going to be an public internet facing application. I vibe coded something and I said deploy to the internet. What could go wrong?
Are we still talking about unsupervised?
Yes, unsupervised.
Yeah, everything will go wrong. I mean, again, if it's that HR something, then it's going to be fine, most likely, right? But if you're talking about now moving into doing that with real business applications, those that make money or those that lose money if they stop working, then everything will go wrong. We are not even close to unsupervised AI. A lot of things are needed for that.
Think about the basics. As humans, we still do this. When was the last time you hard-coded in an API key and committed it to Git? It's been a while, probably, hopefully.
Yeah.
But let's go through a standard vibe coding session. Hey, I see that you need to interact with thing that needs an API token. What's your API token? Copy paste. Okay, thanks. I'll go ahead and take care of that for you. That's what's going to happen.
Think of it in terms of a human. Ignore AI for a second, right? Let's say that you just hired some kid that just graduated university, but that kid is a genius. Knows everything. It's absolutely the most brilliant person that ever walked this earth. Can you let him on day one operate your production system? And just to give you a clue, so that you don't provide an answer that I don't want you to provide, is that kid knows nothing about your company. Doesn't even know whether you use AWS or Google or Azure.
Let me answer it this way. His day one will be your last day. Period. That's what would happen.
Exactly. You need to teach that person. So person knows what that person knows. And let's say that it's very experienced person. You still need to have, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year of training so that that person understands how your company operates. No matter how skilled or even if you take a most senior engineer that ever walked this earth, that person is not going to deploy to production day one. Not because that person doesn't know stuff, but because he has no idea what you're doing, how you're doing, where you're doing, kind of what are your policies, what are your rule books, where are you even running that? Do you have your own data center or are you running it in the AWS, right? There are so many things that person wouldn't know no matter how good that person is. And that's the problem. Now I'm going back to your initial question, right? You cannot let AI just deploy to production unsupervised. because it has no idea what to do. In the context of your organization, not what to do in general. Knows AWS. I have zero doubt about that, right?
But again, I'm thinking about security issues primarily in this episode. In a later episode, we're going to be talking about technical debt and vibe coding. But this one, I want to focus on security. Now, in theory, a well vibe coded app would apply all the OWASP top 10 things to everything it creates.
Yeah.
Should. But guess what? It's not going to. If you think back a couple episodes where we were talking about the MCP servers, and you were just doing a raw agent with no directions at all, going back to this is the first day, you're not going to have a good app.
Can we agree for a moment that whichever permissions or whatever you're allowing that AI to do are the same things that you're allowing other people in your company to do?
We have to say that. Yes.
Yeah, you're not giving it more, kind of like, everybody needs to create a pull request, but you specifically, you can just push to main, right? We're not talking about that situation.
Correct. This would be, so your agent that's doing the work would have the same level as the standard SRE that's doing the work.
Then what makes you think that would be bigger disaster than a random person in your company doing the same thing?
Oh, I'm not saying that the deploy isn't. It would be exactly the same. What I'm talking about is the actual creation of the application that's going to be deployed.
Okay, but why would that be any better or worse?
Well, worse is...
Then same application done by Joe.
Okay, so with Joe knows to go ahead and do input sanitization. Joe knows...
You know that?
Well, because is Joe the day one person?
I don't know. Let's say it's day one person.
Okay, he's day one. Yeah, so it would be host. Yeah, he would have no idea.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old Dan would know because he's been in the company and knows we've got to do input sanitization. Here's our standard frameworks. Here's all of our other things.
Okay, so now we're coming to the... We started this, it's not started, but established a few moments ago that, okay, we're treating that AI the same as human. Give that AI courtesy of giving all the information that you gave to that person over that year or whatever period was there, right? Then would necessarily the difference be that big in the outcome?
It should not be. But most people, if they're just vibe coding, they're not going to know that.
There are physical limitations, right? We don't allow literally pushing to main branch, right? That's physically not allowed type of situation. And many zillion of other policies, right? And for those, doesn't matter whether it's AI, whether it's Joe, whether it's Michael, whomever is doing, needs to obey the same rules. And that there is a knowledge. And that's a big difference, right? So yes, if the question is, hey, can we give inexperienced person or AI or whatever, inexperienced in this context, does not understand how this company works, permissions to do stuff, and we expect great things, you're a fool. But that applies equally to people as to AI.
This is where AI is not going to solve the problem. I guess that's where I'm getting back to is...
Yeah, no.
I don't know how many times I've been on a project to where the phrase comes out, well, we'll take care of security later. Does it ever happen to you?
It happened, yeah. I'm not a good person to ask because I was usually the cause of those security issues. But some other person, yeah.
Right, but usually we would always push those things off till the end, right? Security gets pushed off, testing gets pushed off. We've just got to get it out. Somebody went and played golf, and now instead of shipping 6 months from now, we have to ship in 2 weeks. These things happen, but vibe coding is not going to make that magically go away.
Actually, not magically, but it's one of the ways why I believe we have a chance for those things to go away. Let me explain. All those examples that you just said, all those, we're going to push security for later, and we're going to push implementation of this thing for later. And so why are we pushing those things?
The reason why we're pushing those things is we don't have the time to deal with them right now.
Exactly. Precisely. Now, if AI can help reduce the burden in some other area, and frees your time to do those things, isn't that a win-win?
Well, that's AI and well-constructed AI.
Yes.
But in the context of, okay, I'm just going to vibe code my auth in and auth z for everything.
No. Think of it, I think that we have wrong expectations of AI, right? Kind of, people go to extreme. Oh, I'm going to write a single sentence of something and it's going to do something marvelous. And then there are two extremes of that outcome. It's kind of, oh, this is horrible, it doesn't work, right? And the other extreme, usually influencers on YouTube, kind of, oh, look at it, it successfully created a Tetris game, right? It's false expectations. AI is a tool. It's a tool that has a very big potential to be very, very helpful. But as any other tool, the outcome greatly depends on a person using the tool. Stack Overflow is a tool, but we shouldn't blame Stack Overflow for all the mistakes done before AI, right? We should blame people who are actually using that tool. Visual Studio Code can do autocomplete. Now, if inexperienced person or somebody just says accept, do we blame autocomplete? It's a tool, and you need to be skilled at using it. And that means that you need to understand how the tool works. You need to have the domain knowledge behind what you're doing. Anything less than that is not going to work, no matter how capable or incapable that tool is.
You're sending me down a different rabbit trail. I'm going to try to pull you back.
Okay, pull me back.
Okay. So we've gone down this really big path of what you should do, but let's go back to the people that are just vibe coding and putting their app out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've never deployed any kind of web application before.
Okay.
What's going to be the first thing that happens?
The first thing that happens is that those people, for the first time in their life, got an application running, which is awesome, right? We're still talking about HR as an example, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely awesome.
It's awesome. But now it's on the let me spin it around. Let's say that I spent some time this weekend and vibe coded let's call it a dating app.
Okay.
And I've deployed this dating app out to the internet.
Okay.
And I have said, oh, just come here. And I've actually got some budget. I spend some money on ads. I drive traffic to that site.
Okay.
There's actually a database behind it.
Okay.
Vibe coded everything.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, when it created everything, it went ahead and put in the root password. What I didn't know is it actually put in an standard administrative console that everybody in the world already knows it exists. So now all of the data has now been exposed. And oh, by the way, I was charging credit cards, and instead of actually doing an integration with Stripe, I just decided to save the credit cards locally. And because I didn't decide. The Vibe decided. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. The Vibe decided just to save the credit cards locally because that was the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
This is what happens when you allow Vibe unattended to run your life. Your life becomes miserable.
Unattended because that person wouldn't know what to do by attending
Correct.
it.
Correct.
Okay. Now, let me give you alternative scenarios.
Okay.
Same person, same knowledge, experience, doing the same goal, no code. Any difference? Ignore the amount of time needed to do it.
There should not be any difference. It should be negligible. Yes.
Spend more time, but not sufficient, learning the basic of HTTP and and JavaScript, just enough to succeed. The bare minimum to succeed somehow. Any difference?
Should not be a whole lot of difference.
Right? What I'm trying to say is that, that person just accomplished the equally disastrous outcome faster. But it's not that outcome wouldn't happen without AI. I mean, maybe it wouldn't happen because that person wouldn't be motivated, kind of, oh, I can do this in a day, otherwise it would take me a week, hence I'm not going to do that, so the disaster never happened. I give you that, right? But still, I could even argue that there is a chance, I don't know whether that's today or tomorrow, that maybe actually with no code, something, or self-thoughts bare minimum, the outcomes would be probably the same, but with AI, maybe there is a chance that the AI would be trained in a way to actually tell you, do you understand that you're exposing the password? So now I'm going even in the direction that actually, maybe actually with AI, that is the same scenario. Assuming that the person is willing in all three scenarios to do it, no matter that it takes in other scenarios more. Maybe AI would actually warn that person. Maybe that person would learn something that otherwise wouldn't be learned with the no code or the bare minimum self-taught.
I agree. That's not a bad direction. That's not reality today.
No, absolutely not. I'm just trying to say that, you know, that was being done and happening before. I mean, come on, you can do the same thing with Vercel today, and in a day.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that people that are not aware of what it takes to actually run an application on the public internet, thinking they're going to vibe code something and make $1 million by the end of the month.
Oh, we agree on that 100%. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. There is a space for vibe coding, coming up with the ideas, quick prototype. Heck, I've done it. But let's say you're a senior and you've been tasked with working on a new greenfield project using your idea as well. There is nothing wrong with vibe coding that idea and turning it around faster just because your PM doesn't want to do it.
Or failing faster, even better.
Or failing faster, right? Being able to fail fast is a wonderful thing. But now let's say you vibe coded the example, the proof of concept. Manager sees it. Boss sees it. Let's ship it. And then you as senior says, no, wait a minute. This is the equivalent of shipping an Excel spreadsheet to act like a real database.
Yeah.
So although you got to a shippable item, now you've got to go back and actually create it as a project. So take your vibe as your input into actually creating the true product requirements. Because if you think about it from the olden days, like 2 months ago, you would have people work for 3 to 4 years to write a product requirements document that would then get reviewed by 5 or 6 different teams over the course of 1 or 2 years that would then be handed off to somebody about year 4 to start implementing. And oh, by the way, if you need to talk to those people, they've already left the company. Whereas now, you as a senior can take the code that you've written, use it as an input, have your model create initial PRDs. And in fact, this is my standard right now, is I may vibe a couple of things, just get some ideas going. And I'll say, go ahead and create me an epic for this thing. And I'll chat with it a little bit more and, sort of get the epic where I want it. And then I'll go in a new context because I've saved the epic. And I was like, hey, go read this epic. Yep, got it. Go ahead and create work item PRDs for me and break all those down. And let's work through those. Guess what I can do then? Now I can go to the stakeholders. And it's like, here's the epic. What do y'all think about this? I probably won't show them the work items. I might show a couple of them. Because some of the work items that I've seen generated for me have provided items to me. It's like, I didn't even think about that. Yes, I need that.
Or imagine that same epic, you say, it's done. Not done as if we're never going to merge this to main. But kind of like, here's the epic, and here's the working solution. That is not good. It's far from what it should be, right? But you can feel it, you can see it, you can touch it, you can discuss it, and then we're going to throw it to trash.
But now I've got budget, and I've got a plan. Yes, we virtually threw it to trash because we could still go back and reference it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we could do that because we could still iterate a little bit on that, but hopefully because we use that as the baseline, now we have the true base that we're building from.
You're probably based on that fastly done implementation, you're probably going to refine a bit more PRD, right? Lessons learned. And then when you start working on it, it will be even faster.
Oh, by the way, I'm actually not doing the coding. I'm having the agent or agents take the work items and go do the work. The PRDs could be issues in GitHub, Jira, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You just even markdown files in the repository itself. Lots of different ways to solve that. That doesn't matter. What matters is I got something going. It's probably highly insecure. Probably something I would never want the public world to have access to. Probably not even to my public company firewalls, right? I mean, my little team can work with it. I'm fine with that. But as soon as we start exposing it for anybody else to use outside of my team, that's when the real app has to come into place. That doesn't mean I have to write it, going back to the Dan example, being there 10 years, that knows that he has to use this framework because it's the company level framework on doing things. It's like, oh no, I've trained. I've taught I haven't taught the model. Going back 2 episodes about MCP servers. I've got an MCP that understands the workflows of what has to be there when things get created, greenfield. It's like, so you have somebody come on the team. It's like, well, I don't know how to code and go. Doesn't matter. Your agent that you're managing knows how to code and go.
The question is really, if you're doing more seriously than previous examples, the real question is, do you know how to read Go? So that you can smell bad or wrong direction. If you know, then you're fine.
Yeah. We're at the point now to where this is coming back full loop. You have people today that are vibe coding applications that are putting them on the public internet and having all sorts of bad things happen. But as you said, they ship something to the internet that they had never done before. So that's the upside. Do you think they understood whatever was being written? Probably Python or JavaScript? No. Why do we think we need to understand? I mean, yes, we need to understand it. It would be great if we did.
I also suspect that those cases, like I'm going to stick with the example HR, right? I think that this is very, very temporary solution what we're doing right now with generic models, generic agents. I'm pretty sure that very, very soon we will see more focused solutions for HR in general, kind of like HR AI, kind of like that prevents you from exposing passwords. You can still do bad things and so on and so forth, right? But imagine when we start getting more focused solutions.
We won't need a ton of developers anymore. You think about, okay, you're using HR. Let's go broader than that. There was usually a team or a certain amount of people that always worked on internal applications for a company. Now, if I can have somebody, just the HR person themselves, start working on something that's the vibed solution, that gets handed over to the devibers. I'm making up lots of words here. That actually take the vibed solution and turns it into a real solution. That might take a day. It might take a couple of weeks. It could take a little bit longer. But if you think about how a typical internal application worked 2 months ago, that could get really sped up now.
Yes. Oh, it will be sped up for sure. That I have zero doubt. My main concern, whether that being sped up will mean that team that worked only on internal applications, I'm following your example, will be decimated, or that team will stay the same and finally be able to fulfill all the needs, internal needs that they've been struggling to fulfill for 20 years.
I think it's the latter. Because internal app teams...
It will be both.
Yeah, well, okay.
There are companies that regard, I can cut costs, I'm doing it. There are always those, right? But I just hope that there will be a lot of the latter cases.
Because sure, you can ship a vibed thing. Great. That's all good. But what's the trade-off on that? It would be no different than, here's my analogy. You've been using other analogies. Here's my analogy. A vibed app is no different than bringing in, back in my days in the 90s, you bring in a busload of consultants from a company, drop them in your office. It's like, hey, we need this app in 3 weeks. And then they're out and gone in 3 weeks. It's the exact same thing. They don't understand context. They don't understand the company. Nothing. In fact, they spent the first full week going through, consultant onboarding to the company, and now you've already burned 1 week of the 3.
Yeah, but as you said it, right? I assume that in this context you mean vibed by inexperienced person, right? Still, imagine how helpful that could be if that inexperienced person gives you vibed application and saying, can you actually make this instead of opening your Jira ticket? And you're the person from that team working on internal application.
That would be great. I would take that over a Word document any day of the week.
Yeah, kind of like it's not working, right? I understand that. I've been told by CEO, you remember how last week I exposed passwords? Now I understand that I cannot do that, right? I'm not doing it again, I promise. But here it is, right? This is what we really need, conceptually. This is a mock. That alone is tremendous help, because alternative is I give you a Jira ticket that doesn't explain what I really need because I don't know what I need. Then you work on it, and then you give it to me, and I say that's not what I need. The cycles, and then it takes half a year just to get to some decent point where, and it's not that we're not getting there because I don't know what I'm doing or you don't know what you're doing, but because we don't understand each other, we don't really click and manage to speak the same language, and you just give me the application that will be thrown to trash. But I know what you want.
I think really done correctly, a person vibing paired with somebody that knows the full context of the company, whether they actually physically know it or they know how to interact with that full context of the company, that pair, going back to the 2 pizza teams, this is the 1 pizza team. Having somebody that has the business domain knowledge of the problem to be solved, and with somebody that's technical. Because usually the business person isn't technical, and usually the technical person isn't business.
You can even say, you know what, I'm not throwing your outcome to trash. I can build some kind of mechanism, system, filters, call it whatever you want. That you give me your stuff, and then I enhance it with my things to make it production ready. Why not do that? I'm going to pass it through security scanners. I'm going to check whether there is a confidential information. I'm going to check that it applies our coding standards and what's not, right? Whatever the rules are. And guess what? You're probably already having those rules anyways, right? We already do security scanning, right? We already have policies that prevent certain things from happening. We already have code reviews, right? We already do all those things. The major issue with that hypothetical HR person vibe coding it without really knowing what's happening is that the outcome will increase the amount of work we need to do, right? Kind of like it will be a bigger review, correct? It will probably detect more security issues than normally, right? But that's still less work than nothing. Kind of like starting from scratch.
Starting from a Jira ticket.
Yeah, from a Jira ticket, exactly. So do you prefer a working solution that has more security issues to fix than normal, or Jira issue? What feels better?
If you answer Jira issue, you probably shouldn't be listening to us right now. Because I'm thinking about this. I mean, I hadn't really thought about this specific use case we're talking about today. But this is major. And because now I'm the technical person, the technical of the pair. And you were talking about, okay, we're going to do security scanning, we're going to do all these other things. Well, again, going back 2 episodes to the MCP server, maybe all that didn't exist yet. So now what I'm actually doing is I'm enhancing the MCP server. So as we get these other vibed apps from the company, now we have the standard workflow in place to make sure, okay, security scan in place, look for exposed credentials, look for just all the things. And we just keep refreshing that MCP server. And once we update that, then as new apps come in, or even better, as new things are added to the MCP server, it goes and knows to check all the other apps that it's sort of under its purview. And it's like, hey, it was good before, but we've added this new constraint. And guess what? We found something. Here's the pull request. We've already put the pull request in. Go and check it out. Because that's where the humans should be. Again, especially in corporations, if you're running unattended, any agents, that's dangerous. Period. Yeah. Today. I'm not saying it can't change over time, but today it's dangerous. But you give me a PR as a human to review, it's like, oh, okay, I can do that.
That's where companies come in, right? Whenever we got new technology in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, right? One of the first things that companies do with that new technology is to figure out how that fits into their system. Okay, so Kubernetes, cool. What do we do as security? How do we apply the same policies that we have elsewhere? Like, which ones do we adopt, and so on and so forth? It's not something in isolation. We plug that technology into our system and build our processes and assurances and what's not around it as being part of that system, right? We were doing that always, more or less. It's just that this is so new that we haven't gotten to do it yet. But in not so distant future, I hope that hypothetical scenario we're talking, that will be some kind of company agent, right, that has certain restrictions and so on and so forth, that goes through conceptually the same process as anything else. And when that happens, then we're talking about work being faster while still complying to the same rules. Or conceptually same rules. That doesn't have to be technically. The problem right now is that it doesn't. We're all assuming that no existing company policies apply to this. We somehow make that assumption. And that's wrong. But because we never did it before, I don't understand why would we do it now.
I don't know what's beyond wrong, but it's beyond wrong. For it not, because it's got to apply. Yeah. I was just thinking about sort of the continuum of this. Let's say we had a vibed solution from HR that was about 20%, and the technical person had about 80% to do, because we're now codifying, agentifying, again, making up words, all of the processes. So then when the next vibed thing comes along, maybe it's closer to 50-50. And then the next vibe thing comes along. Again, it's cycled through. And the next vibe thing is 80-20. Now you're saying, oh no, the technical person's going to lose their job because eventually it's going to get to 100%. Trust me, it'll never get to 100%. Never. It's sort of like an arrow doing halfway distance to the wall. It's never going to make it to the wall. It'll get close, but it's never going to make it.
It's similar. I don't know whether you had the same experience, how we had the story when cloud appeared. How is all ops going to lose jobs now?
Well, yes. Actually, ops did lose their jobs. They became SREs.
There you go. The DevOps engineers.
Do I love vibe coding? It depends. There's a good consulting answer. It depends. Am I greenfielding something? I think it's a good idea. Am I vibe coding a solution for an existing app? Maybe to test out a new feature for it. It's probably not a bad idea, just to see how it works. Especially if I'm new to the environment. But am I going to ship that vibe coded solution? High probability that I'm not going to.
I still feel that I agree with you 100%. But what I feel is the main reason for those answers is that whatever you're using for vibe coding, that's completely disconnected from everything else, right? Kind of, it's almost like for many of us, and I'm the first one to admit this applies to me as well, right? It's disconnected from the company. It's disconnected from the system. It's completely almost like a hobby that we're doing right now. We need to get to the phase that this is serious. This is institutionalized, right? Kind of that. I'm going to use Kubernetes as example. Oh, well, I don't know. You can do kubeadm. You can do this and that. But then the company makes a decision and says, OpenShift, and it's set up over there and it has the rules. And now go use it. That's what's missing. Now, whether after that it will be helpful 5% or 95%, I don't know, right? But we're missing that phase that actually it's not you just download it from internet, I don't know, cloud code, but it needs to be part of the system. Then it will become truly useful.
But until that point, expect plenty of press releases about companies that have exposed passwords, credit cards, ages, social security numbers, you name it. What do you think? How bad is it really going to be? Head over to the Slack workspace, look for the podcast channel, and look for episode 323 and leave your comments there. We hope this episode was helpful to you. If you want to discuss it or ask a question, please reach out to us. Our contact information and a link to the Slack workspace are at devopsparadox.com/contact. If you subscribe through Apple Podcast, be sure to leave us a review there. That helps other people discover this podcast. Go sign up right now at devopsparadox.com to receive an email whenever we drop the latest episode. Thank you for listening to DevOps Paradox.